Okay, hello and welcome to this chapter. So I'll say that this is the official beginning of the course. You may have spent some time watching a lot of the other chapters to prepare yourself. You should be familiar with this interface and you should know that we are in the reporting interface, right? If you hit plus and you click report, this is the type of interface you are going to see. So what you are seeing is let me turn this back off. What you're seeing is a report or the report that we are going to be creating. It is titled List Report Beginner and it has 3 columns. Okay, this is column 1, column 2, column 3. And the first column has the on-time status. I have totaled the on-time status, so it's showing that there were 131,420 service requests that were on time, and then there were 54,000 that were overdue. See, overdue total. And overall, there were 186,167 requests total. So what you see here, I have the department assigned as well. So when the folks in Massachusetts had an issue and they called the state, these requests were assigned to this department, these departments. So we see that there were 19,186 assigned to the transportation department, and then 84,987 assigned to the public works department, but these were overdue, meaning that if they had given the person or the department that were assigned this task, if they were not able to complete the task and close the ticket within the allotted time, then it was classified as on time or overdue. So I think, did I say overdue before? Well, this is on time. So overdue is when they are not able to get to it within the allotted time. So these were the ones that were on time, meaning that when they were assigned to, for instance, the public works department, out of all of the 186,000 service requests, 84,000 that were assigned to public works were on time. All right. So yes, this is a simple list report. We are going to do a list report, beginner, medium, and then advanced. But the list report is very important. It is critical. I think I'll say that about 70% of the reports that you are going to be creating will be in the form of a list. Now, this list can be really modified and massaged, and you can turn it into something that does not even look like the list. You can turn this into, you can make it look like a receipt even if you wanted it to. So we are going to go over what these icons do, and where applicable, I'll show you what it is supposed to do, and then we are going to talk about the columns, because I think that it's important for you to understand the difference between the labels and the data items and all the good stuff that you see on this side. All right. So to begin, we are going to click the plus button and we are going to click report. Because we are beginning, we are going to keep it simple. We are going to go with 1 column, and then we are going to go to a theme, and we are going to go with a cool gray. Now I'll be going back and forth to the original report to see what I did in the first one, okay, the original one. So I called it list report beginner. So the first thing I want you to also do is to double click this and call it list report beginner. Okay, so this is the title. This is the header of your list. If you run the report, it will show list report beginner because it's the title, right? Every time you create a report, you need to let the users know why the report was created and what it is. So now this is interesting. We are going to connect to a data source, but we are not going to use the data source that we are going to be using throughout this course. Because this is the beginner list report, I want you to use the samples, right? So go to the team content, click on samples, click on data, and look for the weather analytics. Look for the weather analytics where it has the 4 boxes and then the dark box here. This means that it's a data module. Now when you open this, you're going to see that it is a mess. You see Cognos created a data module, or IBM created a data module, but they did not really organize it. When you watch my data module chapter, or when you perform the exercise in my data module chapter, you are going to turn this data module into this. You see, this is what it's going to look like for the remainder of the course. You see that it's very well organized. It is sorted nicely. I've created some new folders. You're going to learn how to create this, because part of being a Cognos developer is being able to prepare your data. So, you know, we have a lot of columns. Sometimes you might get a table or a spreadsheet with hundreds and hundreds of columns, and it is difficult to search through them. So you have to learn how to organize them and sometimes add new columns, because these columns did not exist. These columns did not exist, but we wrote some code to add them, because I want to be able to view the report by day of the week. But they did not have the day of the week column in the original data module. So you are going to learn how to do that. So if you like and you feel brave, go and watch the data module chapter right after this one, and maybe try to organize your data module to look like this. So going back to the report that we were creating, go ahead and do a save as and save it into any of your folders. Remember, in the beginning chapters, I told you guys to go and create some specific folders in your My Content. You may want to put this in the report folder. You see, I'm just going to save mine in My Content because I'm going to delete it. This is just one that I'm creating for the sake of this chapter. So call it something that you can remember. Maybe call it List Report Beginner, and then put it in the reports folder. If you don't know how to create a folder, you can just click the plus button. If you don't already have the report folder, create the report folder. Create it. You know, when I typed it, I clicked this side, this white space, so that it saved it. Now I'm going to double click on it so that I'm inside the folder, and I'm going to call it List Report Beginner, and I'm going to save it. Okay, so like I said, we are going to be using the version of the Weather Analytics data module that IBM gave to us to use for free. So, you know, this is very basic. If you are working at a company and you already have a model or a package, you can follow along using your company's model. You see, if you work at a bank and you have some sales packages, or maybe you work in say, you work in human resources, you might have something very similar to this, you know, a package or a data module. It is literally the same thing. It doesn't really matter if it is a data module you are using to create a report, or if it is a package, it's a framework manager package. So I'm going to go more in depth into the differences between the framework manager package and then the data module. But they do the same thing. They do initially the same thing. It is just that they are created differently. So you can follow along, or you can use your own data. All right. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to click the plus button, and we are going to select the list. Let's call the list itself first list. And then the query, we are going to call it list query. Let me capitalize it. Click OK. All right, so this is the list. You see that you have a list selected, so you know that it is the list. The first thing you're going to do is drag on time status. And if you want to drag an item into the list, when it starts blinking, release your mouse and it will drop it there. Note that we are currently in the page design mode. We are not in preview, so you won't actually see the values in the on time status. You don't really know what is in there. If you want to know what is in there, just click the page preview, and it shows you that, hey, on time status has on time and overdue as the two values in there at the moment. So we can keep it in preview mode. Now, if you don't see this on this side, just click on the properties and it will come out. If you have a relatively big screen, I think you should keep this on. All right, just keep this on for now. And then the next thing we are going to drag in is the department assigned. See that it's getting bigger because there were multiple departments assigned. And then let's bring in the service request. This service request, drag it here, and like always, when you see it blinking, don't release it when you see it when it turns like that. Don't release it. Only release it when you see it blinking. And if it's hard for you to release it here, you can put it here for now, and then highlight the department assigned and just drag it. Okay, so you see that now it's positioned nicely. So the first thing I want you to do is make sure that the list is selected, and you see that there's a new page down and bottom icon. This means that there were too many values, so Cognos has placed the other values on the next page. By default, Cognos allows you only 20 values. So if you count this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way, it will be up to 20. If you want to see more, if you don't want to go to the next page, if I click page down, you see that it shows the remaining values. So if I don't want to see that, I'm going to make sure that the list is selected, and I'm going to say, give me 1,000 rows. This will let's make it 10,000. This will ensure that always the values will show on the first page. Now, if you have more than 10,000 rows for your data, it is going to put it on the next set of pages. Note that if you are in the preview mode and you bring such a large amount of data, it is going to slow down your system a little bit. So just be aware of that. All right, the first thing we are going to do, we are going to go over all of these icons that you see on the toolbox or the on-demand toolbar. Sometimes I call it toolbox, sometimes I call it toolbar. And just to refresh your memory, if I click on the unpin, everywhere I go, this thing is going to follow me. The toolbar or the toolbox is going to follow me. I think I'll call it toolbar from now on, because usually this is the toolbox. So I might go back and forth and say toolbox or toolbar, but we are just going to go ahead and call it toolbar. So the toolbar, we are going to unpin it and stick it to the tab so that it stops following us around everywhere we go. It can be a little bit annoying. You see that when I select the list column body, the number of options we have here is greater than when I select just the list report. So this is something that you should be aware of as well. So the first thing we are going to do, we are going to go through all of them where applicable. I might skip some of them if I think the concept is too complicated, but you have to know what these are, because in the next few chapters, I'll be clicking on them very fast and I might not explain what they are going to do. So if you need to rewatch this again, that is fine. First thing we are going to do is we're actually going to use the font and make everything a bit bigger. So I'm going to select 14 and I'm going to go with the Helvetica. Hit apply, and everything is going to be bigger. I think it's a bit too big. Let's make it 12. All right, so 12 is better. So now you should be able to see it clearly. All right, so in essence, you've created your first report. In some cases, this might be all you may have to do. So assuming your manager said for you to create a report without any totals, the manager just wanted to get a list to get an idea of what is happening at the moment, you could drag these 3 columns and run it. We are going to run it, and then you can either print it or you can send it out in an email, depending on what you are looking to do. So save it now, and then let's run it. So we are running it to see what it actually looks like, because even though you see the report, you are just in the page preview mode. You are still building the report. It is showing you what you are building. That is why you are seeing it. In the older versions of Cognos, we didn't have that option. So this is really good. I can see myself going back to the old version. But at times, you may want to go to the page design mode. You see, when it's design mode, it is different. It's showing you the structure. It doesn't actually show you the values. So a lot of the times, I'm going to be in the preview mode unless there's a lot of data. So let's run it. You can run it to HTML, PDF, Excel, Excel data, CSV, or XML. For most of you, you are going to run HTML, PDF, and Excel. But Excel data, we are going to run it and you are going to see the difference. CSV is when maybe you need to load the data into another system and the requesters are asking for a CSV version of the file. This is pretty common for HR. A lot of the times they want to get the CSV because they are sending it to another a benefits provider. XML, I've never used XML. XML is usually meant for other applications as well. You may have an application that may need the XML of this report to do something. Okay. Show run options. Let's see what we have here. You can select the paper size. The paper size. For the most part, I don't touch this. I don't think I've ever touched this before. So just leave it alone. So let's run it to HTML, and a new tab opens. Okay, so this is the report. This is what you can send this off to your to your manager if you wish. Now, HTML usually is for you to just consume the report in real life or to see what the report is going to look like. If you were to schedule this report and it ran and you selected HTML and you added the person's email address, this is what it's going to send to them. Now, from this screen, you can also run to PDF if you want. So I'm running it to PDF. And PDF, let's select the single page. And this is what it looks like in PDF. It's putting some of the other items on the next page. You will have to change that in the properties if you want it all on the same page. All right, so let's run it to Excel now. And this is what it looks like in Excel. Okay, so you have your list report beginner, and you could literally send it as an email if you wish. You can do a save as and attach it and send it away. And then you can run it to Excel data. Now, I'm not going to run it to Excel data just yet. CSV and XML, I'll run it in a little bit because I want to make some changes before I run to Excel data so you can see the difference. So let's go back to the report. Next, we are going to go over all of the items on the toolbar. So with the list selected, you see the list is selected. If you want to cut this report, maybe you want to put it on another page or you want to cut an entire column, you would use the cut icon. It's like the scissors. So with the list selected, you see when I select just the column, I have a whole lot of different options. You see, depending on what you select, the options at the top will be different. So say let's just cut the entire list. We can cut it, and even though it says one asset is copied, it's actually cut it, and then we can just paste it back. To paste it back, this icon is what does it. Paste it, and it will come back. Obviously, this is copy, so you know what copy does. If you needed to copy anything on your screen for something else, you just click on the copy and it will do that. If you want to delete the entire list, you can click on delete. And let me make a point about the delete. There's something to be aware of about the delete, and you are going to see more of it in a little bit. At times, you may want to actually delete an entire column. But if you don't want to delete it, it's a good idea to cut it instead. See, if I don't want to see the on-time status on this screen, I may want to cut it and not delete it, because if I delete it, it's actually going to be deleted from the query. This will be a good time for me to talk about the query, right? So when we created this list report, remember we created this list query. The list query is what contains the columns. To get to the query, you click on the drop down here and navigate over to the list query. If you click on the list query, it's going to take you to the list query. And you see that the breadcrumb now says report, queries, and list query. So you see that here are the three items. We are going to be seeing a lot of this in the next list report intermediate. I think that is where I'll talk more about the query. So to get back to the main page, click the return button and you are back here. So you see that if I wanted to delete the on-time status, if I click on the delete, it is gone. So if I go back to the query, you see that now I only have two columns. If I go back to the screen I was and undo it, it's going to bring it back. Now the other thing is the cut. If I cut it, it's not going to delete it from the query because sometimes I don't want to see it on the list, right? I don't want to delete it, I just don't want to see it. Because if you delete it, you can't use it for anything else. You can't use it for other calculations. At times you might have a column on your list and you may not want to see the column, but you may need the column to do a calculation. So those are the times where you'll be cutting it instead of deleting it. So if I needed the on-time status to do something on the report, maybe I wanted to use it as a reference for something, then I would cut it and not delete it. So if I cut it, it will be cut from the list, but it will be on the query. The on-time status is still in my query. Now, if you don't understand this, when we do the webinar, I can explain it for you, okay? If you don't understand this, I'll go into detail about this. All right, for now, we are going to continue. So the filter, this is the filter. You can create a manual filter or you can highlight any item, and when you click on the filter, it will ask you if you want to either include the value or the item you selected or exclude it. It also asks you if you want to include null or exclude nulls. You know, nulls are blank values. You know, at times you are going to see that some of your columns do not have any item inside them. So we are going to do filters in the next chapter. So for now, we are going to do a very simple filter. So I want to filter out transportation. So when I highlight transportation and I click on the filter, I'm going to say exclude transportation, and transportation goes away. Right? If I want to bring it back, let's do the undo and it will come back. So you can even select multiple with control click. When I select multiple, you see that it's asking me if I want to only include it or exclude them. So this will be the fastest way. Let's include those three, and then it's only including those three. And the longer way of doing it would be to actually go in and say edit filters, and the new screen will come up where you can go in and manually add a filter. We'll do that in the next chapter. So the next is sort. If I wanted to sort this ascending, maybe I wanted to see the A's first, I wanted to sort this column, I can highlight the header and select descending, and now it's showing the W's first before the A, or ascending. All right, so that is how you do your sort. Now we are going to be using this here in a little bit, but I want to show you what the insert calculation does first. So insert calculation allows us to select, say, the service request, right? We can select the service request and decide that we are going to make it the percentage of the total service request. Right now we don't have the total service request, so it won't make any sense. You can decide you want to create a custom group, and we are going to do that. Maybe you want to put all the service requests between 1 and 5 into its own group. Maybe you want to call it low, and then maybe all service requests between 6 and 100 you want to call it medium, and then everything after the 100 you want to call it high. You can create a custom group. More on that later. But the group, we are going to use the grouping now. We are going to group it and we are going to total it. So if you want to see the list report, you want to see it like this with the group and the total, this is how we are going to do it. So go back to your list beginner, and you have to do it in this order. For if you want to see expected results and you don't want to be surprised by what you see, do your totals in this order. See, if I select the service request and I hit the total, it's just going to put a total at the end. It doesn't give me the total for the on-time status and then the overdue. But I want to see the totals for the on-time status. You see, I want to see the totals for the on-time and then the totals for the overdue. So first, I need to group it. So let's do the undo. To group it, let's select the on-time status, press the group button, and then we are going to select the service request and click the summarize button, and we are going to select total. All right. Now, be aware that sometimes some funky things might happen. If you go ahead and you sort things before you do the grouping and the totaling, I think there might be a bug in the list report. Sometimes there are bugs in systems. Every application, usually when it is released, there is some kind of a bug. And when you see any issues, go on Google and maybe do a search. It is something that all developers use and apply. Sometimes when you are creating a report and you group it and you total it and it's acting strange, you try using different techniques or go online and Google it and see if there's a solution. Because the reason why there are so many different versions of applications or systems is because when they release it, it has a bug that they are not able to catch. So if you play video games, you notice that they have to sometimes update the video game with a patch to correct some issues. So when we are doing these things, you are going to see that sometimes things will not work as planned. Sometimes I'll do something and it will act really strange, and I have to figure out why it is acting like that. So when you see things like that, if you are doing something and it doesn't match what I am showing you here, make a note of it and draw my attention to it when we have our one-on-one, or when I do one of when I do a webinar, we can look at it together and I'll see if I found a solution for that issue. So here we grouped it and then we did a total, and it is now showing us the on-time total and it's showing us the overdue total. All right, so we skipped this. Now let's use this. Let's use the insert calculation. Let's add a simple calculation. Now that we have the totals, if we do the drop down and I say percent of total, See, a new column has been added, right? Now, you note that it's now the percentage of the total, and all this means is that 19,000 is the percent of the total, 186. Okay, if you add all of this up, you should get 100%. So let's highlight it, and let's highlight this column again because it's not showing us the total. Go again to the summary and do total. When I do the total, it gives me this sort of error. This is what I was talking about. So let's go over to the design mode and see if doing it in the design mode will help. Okay, it is still not working. So in times like this, I'll go back to the page design and I will undo it. It is a good idea to do these things in order. Before you do the totals, it's a good idea to bring your summaries in, because I've seen this happen. It's a good idea for you to perform this task first before you do the totals. Okay, so by the way, if you wanted to delete the totals, it's as simple as just highlighting it and deleting it. But before I do that, let me show you something. Let's go to the query. You are going to see that new rows or new columns have been added to the query. The fastest way to get to the query is click the three ellipses and click Go to Query. Obviously you can do the drop down and go to the list query, but the fastest, every time you want to go to a query, the fastest way will be to click the three ellipses and go to Query, and you are in here. Now you see that it has added this total services to our report. Okay, if you want to delete it, you can just delete it from here, or you can go here, select it, and delete it. And let's select this total as well, and let's delete that as well. Okay, so you see that we have deleted it, and if we go back to the list, you see that now it is gone. So let's go back here again. We are doing this the dirty way because I know that some of you are going to see really strange things as you go ahead, as you create your first list report, but understand that you can always back out of it. If you feel like things are not going your way, just delete it and do it again. Okay, so I'm intentionally doing it this way so that we all see some of the bugs and some of the issues that you might see when you create your list. But don't panic. As you keep creating your list reports, you are going to find ways around some of these issues. So we've deleted the totals because when we added the total after we included our calculation, it started giving us an error. So this is how I work around it. I go back, I remove the totals, and I do the percentage of total first. Then I select my service request and I go total. And you see now that it has given us a space. Since we had already created a percentage of total, it's giving us the space. If I didn't have this space, it would have given me that error that we saw before. So now we can select the total service column, click the summary, bring total, and it's going to bring the total. So overall on time status percentage-wise is about 70.59%, and then the overall total is 100. So 74 by 29 is 100. Our original list, we didn't do that calculation, but I'm doing it now with you. So maybe this might be a little bit slightly beginner advanced, but it doesn't hurt for us to do a little bit more than we had planned. All right, so now you see what these three items do. They usually work in concert with each other. I'll say that if you're going to bring in another calculation, make sure that you bring the calculation in before you even do your grouping, maybe. But the best way will be, if you need to bring a new calculation, bring the new calculation, right? Bring the new calculation and then do your group and then do your totals. That will be the order. For the most part, you might not even need this new calculation. So then all you have to do is select the column that you want to group on. You see, do the grouping, do the group first, grouping first. If you need to write this down, think group first, and then select the column you want to total by, and then do the total. You can do total or average or minimum, but we'll do some of that in the next chapter. All right, so this allows us to section. So we are not going to be doing the section. This pick style, I'll show you how you use it. So case in point, let's say that I decide to color. I'm going to jump a little bit, right? I'm going to jump over and show you how to use this because all of them are very, very basic, but they are all connected. So I might not go one after the other, just because, you know, some of these icons might be useful before. Um, some of these might be useful before I show you this, because I cannot use this if I have not copied anything. So this allows you to apply a style from one column to another. So for instance, if I decide I want to make this background blue, and I want to make this background blue as well, of course I can highlight this column and press this, and it will be blue as well. But assuming I wanted to copy the background color here, so to do this, I'll highlight the column, I'll click on the drop down, I'll copy the background, I'll highlight the column, and I'll just press it. I'm not going to click the drop down again because we've already copied it. So first, the steps are to copy it, highlight whatever it is that you want to copy. You know, it could be the font, it could be the background color, it could be anything else, right? First, you copy it, and then when you select the column that you want to apply it, you just push it. Push it. Don't do the drop down, but just push it and it will apply it. So let's undo all of that. Okay, so the font is just the font. You know, you can just decide that you want to make this bold, everything here bold. You hit apply and you can see what it looks like. That will be the font. You can do a whole lot of other things to that. So we are going to see that in a little bit. Let's undo it. Now this is the border. If I wanted to put a border on this column, I'm going to click on this border and this interface comes up. So case in point, I want to put a border on time. You see, I've selected the whole the row. Okay, it might be a good idea to put this in design mode so that you see what I'm doing. I've selected this on time status, right? It might be easier for you guys to see some of these changes here in design mode. So I'm going to put a box around it. I click the border and I want to make it solid. I want to make it maroon. And to do that, first, I might decide I just want to put it on top. If I want to just put it on top, I click on that. If I want to put it on the side, I click on that. And then it's just telling me that the current border width is not large enough to display on double borders on the screen, right? It may be possible to see the double borders in the PDF output or the printed. It's just saying that it's too light, and I should probably maybe make the line a bit bigger. Okay, so let's choose a 3-point font and then let's apply that, and then you see that it is bigger. So if you want to remove all of it, just click on that and it goes away. If I apply, nothing happens. But I can very quickly apply it to all four by just clicking this icon, and it applies it to the whole box. So when I hit apply, you see it has applied it to the box. I don't know why it applied to the department assigned. Maybe I selected that as well. But let's undo that and let's highlight let's put a border around the service request. I click on the border. I decide that I want this to be very bold. I want it to be red, and I want to apply the dotted. So I click on this and I hit apply, and now it has put a dotted around the service request. If I want to remove it, I just click on that and it goes away. If I wanted to put it on the side, I click on that and I see that it's on the side. So you can play around with that. We are going to be applying some of this. We'll probably put a line at the bottom of this, the header. So, you know, just be aware of that. Cancel and undo. So let's do that. Let's put a border at the bottom of this list, beginner. So you see that this list, the test, if we wanted to put a border under just the test, we can just highlight the test and then look for the border. You see, it's not showing the border on the test. That is fine. We can find it here. We can apply it here. You see, remember that I told you that sometimes the toolbox or the toolbar will show some icons. It thinks that these are the activities that you are going to be performing the most for the list. But if you don't see something here, go onto the properties. The properties will show you everything that you are supposed to see. You see that when I select the block, this list is inside a block. I can decide to put the bar or the border on the block, or I can put it on the entire page header. I prefer to put it on the page header, because then the line will be on the actual header, not the block, because the block is different from the actual header. So we are going to put it on the page header itself, I'm going to go ahead and pick the block, and I'm going to say let's use a 2/4 and let's make it black is fine. And I want to put it at the bottom. Let's make it a, no, not a double line, a solid line. A 2/4. Let's apply it again, and then let's hit apply, and now you see the line. So play around with this. This is not a make or break sort of thing, but know that this activity exists, and be comfortable, you know, choosing the style, the width, the color, and then the previews. Okay. All right. So should we stay here or should we go into preview mode? This one will be a lot of fun when I do the live demo, because some of you might already have questions. You know, this is your first time. You are probably so confused, or maybe you are not confused. I don't know yet. But this one, it will be good for me to do a live demo so that you get comfortable. So let's go to the page preview mode. And let's see. If I select the list, I see that I have gone through all of these. Let's apply the style. Let's create a style and apply it. Now, in the latest version of Cognos, you can create a style so that you don't always have to go through the process of applying styles to your list, your entire list, or maybe even a column. So you can create a style and save it, and then in the future you can just apply it. For example, if I want to apply a style to the department assigned, I can just go, and I know that I've created this footer test style. I know that is small because I called it small just to give me an idea of what it is, right? I think that whatever it is that I saved here is a footer test. Usually if I need to add some kind of style to my footer test, this is what I'm going to be using. So when I hit apply, you see, this is what I expect it to do. I expect every time I have some footer test, I'm going to apply this style, and it's going to make it small. And if I want it, usually I'll apply this to the header of my chart. Let's go ahead and do an undo so that I can apply it to the header, the entire header. If I want to select the entire header, I can click the 3 ellipses and go to the column title style, and it will select the entire header. You see, list column title style. It's selected the entire header, and I can apply the style to it. So let's do the drop down and header style, you know, header chart slash. When I apply it, it's probably going to look bigger. Okay, so you see it has changed the style of it, and this is what it looks like. Let's do an undo, and I can show you what it looks like. If we go to the header and we go to edit, it's going to show what I did. So I saved this header chart style, header chart large. I want it to be Arial black. I want it to be a size of 14, and I want you to make it black, and I want you to center it. So when I apply it, these are the changes that will occur. You see, we can create one very quickly. Let's create a basic style. So for my numbers, let's create a quick style that I want to apply to all my numeric columns. Let's create new style. And what do I want it to do? When I select it, I want you to make the text. You see, there are different tabs here. The text, I want you to change the text to this color, you know, a gray color. You know, let's make it bold. And what else? Let's put it in the center. What else should we do to it? Let's make it really big so that you guys can tell the difference. Let's make it really big. And the size and positioning, you know, if I want to change the width and the height of whatever container or whatever test item that I'm applying this to, I can put that in here. We are not going to do any of that. The background, let's say I want to change the background to, let's go over here and make it, let's make it yellow. So it will change the background to yellow. And then the box, let's put this around it. Let's make it 4 for some reason. When we click on this again, it will show us. Maybe if you want to put it on the side, you can apply it accordingly. When we remove it, if you want to remove it, you can just click that. If you want to apply it again, remove it, just apply it to the tab. Play around with some of these things. You know, if I try to show you everything, it will take quite some time. But you are going to see it later in the chapters where I might just come on this screen and create one for you. But know that it is here and what it does. So this one, I'll call it big test, maybe numeric. And then once I save the style, right, I can apply it and you see that now it has made the text this gray color, it made the background yellow, and I can apply it to this guy. I can click the drop down, and now I can apply the one that I just created, which is with big text numeric, and all of a sudden it turns to that. Okay, so let's go ahead and undo all of that. Let's go back to the preview mode. All right, so this is a bit of a freestyle, and we are going to be applying some of these unique functions and changes and formatting to some of these columns as we go. So know what these things are. Right now, you know what everything is all the way up to the format. Let's apply a format. Let's say if we wanted to see some decimal places in this column, this will be what we will use to format it, right? This is the format icon. So when I click on it, a new interface comes up. You can also get to it by going over to the right hand side and looking for data format. If I click on the three ellipses, it will pop up here as well. So either or. Remember, I told you can either use the on-demand toolbar to make a change, or you can go to the properties. So here, this is number. By default, this is what is coming back from the database or the Excel file, right? This is what it looks like. But if I wanted to change it to currency for some reason, I can just change it to currency. But it doesn't make any sense, right? The service requests are not dollars, so we don't have to change it to that. Let's just change it back to number, and let's give it 2 decimal places, just to show it, right? It doesn't really make any sense because every service request will be a whole number. There is never a quarter service request, right? If someone opens a service request and it's just going to be a whole number all the time. So there's no need for us to put the decimal. But I'm doing that so that you see what it is, okay? All right, so again, if I select the list, we see that we don't see the format. We don't see the format. But if I select the column, we see a lot more of we see the format and we see a lot more of the features. All right, so the next one is the alignment. If I wanted to align the department assigned all the way to the left, actually it's already to the left, to the right, that's how you do it. So that is a no-brainer. You know how to do that. If I want to align, let's see, this whole chart, if I wanted to align the whole chart, say, to the right-hand side of the table cell, it's in a table cell because you see, when I selected the screen outside of the list, it changed to table cell. Every time you select something, it will tell you what it is that you have selected, right? Cognos will tell you up here what you have selected. And if you wanted to navigate up, it's a hierarchy. If you want to navigate up, you see that this transportation department value is located inside a list column body, and on top of that we have the list column title is inside a list set of list columns, which is inside this list. So it's showing you little by little what all of these things are. You see, even when I select the table, you see that something comes up here. When I select the table, it tells me that this is the entire table. At times when I select the list, you see that it has the dashes, but it's not all cases that you see that. When I select the table cell, you see you're going to see some dashes here. Keep your eyes on here. When I select the table cell, you see that it's showing that that is the table cell, table row, and then table. So if you are looking to select an entire object, it's a good idea to get comfortable with how you select it. If you want to select something specific, you want to apply, say, a specific format to this whole list, and you're having a hard time applying it, it's a good idea to use the hierarchy or the selector. Cognos calls it the selector to sort through and find out what you are looking for. All right. So that is the selector is actually here. We just went through it, but that is the selector, and you can decide, hey, I want to select the table because I want to apply some kind of font to the entire table. Okay, or I want to apply a background color to the entire table. Okay, so let's undo that. Let's go back to the list. Okay, so what else? We've done this. Okay, if you wanted to change this chart type, okay, if you wanted to change this chart type, now I want to advise for you to select this list. It has a lot of things going on, but if you wanted to change it to something else, maybe sometimes Cognos will tell you that, hey, with these 4 columns, you can change this to a chart that will make sense. But this time, Cognos did not find anything, and I don't blame Cognos. We have so many columns that that with all these totals, it doesn't make sense for us to use this object to create another chart. But when it is a simple list report, at times Cognos will tell you that, hey, you can create a bar chart from this. But at this point, we've done so much to the list that it does not qualify for any other simple chart. So know that this is here and that you can use it for that. So this is the selector. We've already looked at that. Let's see. This guy allows you to align your object in the middle. You see, if we select this value, and again, sometimes I'll go to the detail if I think that you are confused. If you select it in the preview mode, it looks different from when you select it in the design mode. So be aware of that when I select the on-time status, I'm selecting the actual value. That is why when you go over to the preview, you see that the actual value is selected. This is not selected. If I want to change this specifically, if I want to put it in the center, I need to select this specifically, right? On-time total. I need to select that row specifically. If we go to the design mode, you see that I have it selected as such. And I can make the change here. If I want to put it in the center, put it in the center. And if I align it in the middle, you won't be able to see it here. But if I, the column is so little that you won't really see it. If I put it in the center, you won't see it. But if I put it in this one in the center, it is going to align and put it here instead of at the top. So with this selector, let's put it in the middle. And you see that because there's enough space, you can tell the difference. Okay, so you can play around with some of these things, and it is just these icons. Let's undo most of these things, and let's get back to where we were. Let's get back to where we were now, and let's continue. So we have exhausted all the options here. Let's look at the 3 ellipses. If you want to add another column, you are going to see that if I add a column to the left, it's actually going to add a column to the table. For some reason, even though I have my list selected, it doesn't add the column to the list. If I add a column to the left or the right, and I say OK, it's just going to add a column to the actual table. So just be aware of that. For some time I was confused. I thought if I wanted to add a column, I just click add column and it will add a column to the list. No siree, Bob. Nope, it adds it to the table. Okay, so let's see. Same with the row. If you want to insert a row, it will add it to the row of the actual table that the list is in it. The list is embedded in. Okay, the list is inside a table. It will add a row to the table. All right, so apply table style. Let's apply a table style. This is a lot of fun. I play around with it quite a bit. I can change this whole list to look like this, right? I can select the contemporary and change it, and now the formatting is different. I can change it to this modern look. I can change it to the accounting look where it looks like an accounting table. If I want it to look like that, So this is formatting. I apply this type of formatting to the table a lot. When I want the table to look pretty very quickly, like this whole table, if I want it to look a certain way, I will apply the table style to it, and it will function a certain way. You're going to see more of that in a little bit. But know that the table style is pretty cool, and we are going to use it quite a lot. So if I want to select the entire column title, I can just click on here and it's selected. Or potentially I can select one of the columns, navigate using the selector, and select the list column title as well. So 2 ways to do that. If I want to select the entire column body to apply a style to the entire column body, 3 ellipses, column body style, and it selects the entire body. Maybe I want to add a color to the background. That is how you do it. If you want to navigate over and select the list, you can do it this way. Select the list, and you can do that as well. So just get comfortable. This is the list report basic beginner. Play around with this. Create a list report and just start going crazy. Maybe change the font. Maybe put this in the center. Maybe group and ungroup, you know, I think my group went away. Let's undo. I think I'm going too fast. I'm now breaking things. Yeah, when I changed the format, you see it changed my list. So let's go all the way back. It ungrouped it. Just be aware of some of these things. When you apply a table style, you see that it changed the grouping of my list. When I went and applied the table style, sometimes it will do that. So headers and footers is important. If I want to add a header to this list, I can say create header, and it adds a header here. Okay, so I can say this list shows my on time and departments, you know, just let's just type that, and then that's going to be the header. Now if you want to put it at the top, select it and then go to start of list. Instead of start of list, change it to start of details. Change it to at start of first details on page. Okay, at start of first details on page, and it will put it at the top. Now you see that when I select this, another new icon comes up. If I wanted to split this into two, I can just click this and it will split it according to the columns, the number of columns in my list. Because at times you may want to do this, or you might decide to merge it, right? If you want to merge it, you see that the icon is different. This is merge cells. Before, it was a different icon, right? It's split. But when we split it and we want to merge it, you can just select two of them and merge it. If I just wanted to merge these two, I can just merge these two at the top. Okay, if I just wanted to merge these two, I can do that as well, and maybe bring in another test. You see, it will not let me put the test in. Why? Because we have to unlock it. So I will show you the unlock in the next session. I think I'll put that in the next session. This is beginner. Let's not go too crazy at the moment, okay? I want to keep this very basic. So you see how you would do that. If you want to put a header, that is how you do that. So if you want to create a footer as well, it's the same like the header. If you click the footer, it puts it at the bottom. Okay. Let's select the list again, and let's see what else I want to show you. Now, if you wanted to bring up the screen that allows you to select more of the headers and the footers, if you wanted to hide some of these, like if you don't want to see this total and you want to hide it for now, instead of deleting it, you can just hide it. So let's select list headers and footers, and you see that right now it's showing the list header, but if I uncheck it and I click OK, the header goes away. If I want to bring it back, I go over to the list headers and footers again, and I do that and I bring it back and it comes back. Okay, so the same with this overall footer, or even this on-time status footer. You see this footer, the footer that you see here is this on-time status footer. If I don't want to see it, I can uncheck it, and when I click OK, it will disappear. Okay, so just know that this icon, or this screen here, allows you to add and remove some of the levels or some of the rows in your list. Same with the page. If you wanted to add a page header or footer, right now we have the header already. If I don't want to see the header, I can uncheck that and it goes away. But sometimes when you create the report or you create a new page, it might not show the header by default. So you have to go in and select the header or the footer to show it. All right, just be aware of that. Okay, we are not going to talk about this now. This is complex, but we are going to go to query. Go to query, and it takes us to the query. You see that the query has gotten bigger. It has more things inside it. So you know, this is navigation. I think this is more than enough. We've covered almost everything here. You know, there is this one that I'll show you later. But I think for the very first list beginner, this is fine. I'm going to stop here, and we are going to go to the next one, you know, which, you know, we are going to do more complex things in the intermediate. So you've been able to perform some tasks here. You've been able to do a grouping, you've been able to do a total, and then in the next chapters we are going to do more complex sorts, because when you do a sort, sometimes it will change the behavior All right, if you wanted to do the sort for this column, you know, this is the sort, you can do ascending, and you see that it changes the whole behavior of the list. I don't want to confuse you now, so we are going to leave that alone, and we are going to do it in the next chapter. Okay, we are going to do it in the intermediate level. So now know that you can create your list, and we are going to run it. Remember I said I was going to show you how the run data looks like. You see that I have this grouping. If I run this to data, if I run it to Excel data, it's going to ungroup it and it's going to put these totals in its own column. It's not going to look like the regular Excel. You see, when I run the regular Excel, let me go back and open it if it is still available. You see, when I run to regular Excel, it keeps the formatting, right? The original Excel that we run, it keeps the formatting. In fact, let's run it again. So you see, this is what we have now. It's keeping the formatting. It's showing us exactly what we had in our list. It's bringing everything in there nicely, right? But when I run it to data, it's going to remove the grouping, it's going to remove this total, and it's going to put it in its own column. So that is the difference. When you run to data, you lose the formatting. So let's run to Excel data. Okay, so you see that it looks different. It has removed all the formatting. It has removed all the formatting and it has put all these totals here. So be aware of this. Sometimes you may want to export your data for another system. If you need to export it without all the formatting, I would advise that you delete all of these. You know, delete it from the report before you export it to data, because it will literally it will prepare it so that you can import it to another system, right? So that is the difference. Almost always you are going to run it to regular Excel. You are going to click play and you're going to run it to run Excel. But if you need if you have it all prepared and it's looking like this with this beautiful layout, but someone says, hey, can you give me the raw data? You could run it as Excel data and it will remove all the formatting. I would advise you to create another version of the report. Instead of running it to Excel data, just create another version of the report and call it List Report Beginner Export, right? And remove all of these totals and all of that. Also, if you want to run to CSV, it's a good idea for you to remove this, you know, unformat it, because CSV, you know, is comma delimited file. So for you to get a clean file for you to export, you know, I recommend that you remove all of the formatting. You know, remove all the formatting. Otherwise, it will not be useful when you export. If you run this to CSV and you view it, the outcome isn't going to be what you expect it to look like. You see, it's a bit of a mess. It doesn't even look anything like what I expected. You see, I don't even know what this is, but it's a bit of a mess. So make sure that before you run it as such, you know, it's not really supposed to look this weird. Let me see what is going on. Yeah, it looks weirder than I thought, but you see, you want to prepare it. You want to make it a very simple list. And like I said, it's a good idea to create a new version of the list. Okay, so this is the beginner. I hope that you learned a lot from this, and then the intermediate, we are going to go a bit deeper. Thank you.